Hey guys, welcome to my live stream. We're officially started, I believe. So I have to say that part so that when I edit the VODs, I don't have to make pre-recordings because I get annoyed by those because it looks weird. So I'm trying to say more of the actual lines I'm supposed to say in the real stream because I'm too lazy to put on the same makeup and clothes multiple days in a row. If you're new here, awesome. That's really cool. Thanks for showing up. We're gonna get into sci-fi nerd stuff here soon. Stick around for that. If you're old here, then thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you guys. You mean a lot to me in my heart. If you don't know what's going on in the story, you can check out the YouTube. I've actually put way more effort than I like to admit into editing the VODs so that they're a little bit more cohesive than the live streams. I know that if you're here for the live streams, you're here for the pauses and the weirdness and the asides. But I also know that if you want to listen to a book and hear the story, that sometimes you don't want all of the everything. The reactions are going to happen because my face can't lie, and whatever I think immediately shows up on my face. If you want something that's slightly more cohesive, you can check out my YouTube. It's youtube.com/@BrynnaNeon. I'll put that on the screen over there. Maybe. I don't pay that much attention to YouTube. YouTube doesn't believe in me and therefore doesn't allow me to have clickable links in my video descriptions. So maybe I don't believe in YouTube. That's a lie. I believe in YouTube. I believe that it's important to have my VODs there. Anyway, subscribe and I'll mail you a sticker, like a real sticker. Okay, deep breath. We'll get there. I got my thinking Play-Doh. I've got a bucket of cookies. Yeah. What is going on is I'm really into the band Coheed and Cambria. All of their albums coincide with comic books. And then for one of their albums in 2010, instead of releasing a comic book, they released a prequel to all the comics in a novel, and the novel was called Year of the Black Rainbow. So that's what we're doing. We're reading a book. We're reading a book by a rock band. No! Stop. No, I'm kidding. This is fine. Everything is fine. Sorry. I'm just gotta center myself for a second. Because that was... Nobody exploded. I was finally mentally prepared for people to explode. And instead, there was like nozzles, cannon nozzles of droogs. And people getting squished by tanks. And Pearl is really mad at Dr. Hohenberger, but like, what is he supposed to? Also, so many people ended up supporting Wilhelm Ryan in the end, and like, what's Mr. Hohenberger supposed to do? He's sad. Where's my Play-Doh? I had it. I literally got a lump out. I found it. Oh, also, remember last stream when I lost that chunk of Play-Doh? I vacuumed my office today because we were putting in the AC unit, and I thought it was a good time to do that, and found that chunk of Play-Doh underneath the radiator. If you just showed up, which I don't know why you would show up just now, but if you did, we're currently reading Year of the Black Rainbow out loud and talking about space mages. And we're now on chapter 6. So we've processed. Oh man, I don't think people actually want to buy my chunks of squished Play-Doh. They might. Speaking of weird things that people might want to buy, so one moment before we get back to reading, I'm going to tell you guys about some of my ideas, because these are some of my ideas that I have in life. I kind of want to make an online shop, and I have literally thought about this for years. Tiny aside before we get into the next chapter. So I've thought about this for years, and I haven't done it. Mostly out of laziness, and also because I don't know how viable this idea actually is. But I thought about starting an online shop, which has weird little things in it. So one of the things would be like, I make little crocheted stuffed animals, and maybe I could sell those in there. Other things that you could potentially buy in there is little jars of my hair because I save some of that sometimes. Other things you could buy in there would be little framed portraits of my eyebrows, because I grow out my eyebrows once or twice a year, and then when I decide I don't want eyebrows anymore, I just wax them off. And when you wax off an entire eyebrow, it comes out pretty clean. It's just some eyebrows, and then I'd put them in frames, and then you could buy my eyebrows in a frame. Anyway, the shop would be called Stuff for Weirdos on the Internet, and I do mean that in the highest of compliments. Because let's face it, who's gonna buy a tiny jar of hairs and my eyebrows? Weirdos on the internet. Good weirdos. I'm fine with it. I mean, if there was somebody I really liked on the internet and they're like, hey, you want to buy art that's just my eyebrows? I'd be like, yeah, I kind of do. I'd put that in my house. I'd decorate my house with that. I mean, also, there'd probably be normal stuff in the shop also, like my stickers and illustrations and prints of my old modeling photos and stuff. Like, you could buy legitimate real things there too, but also weird stuff. Why do I have a jar of my own hair? Because I do. I've got like a big jar of my own hair. That's a different story, and we can talk about that a different time. But I have the materials. Also, do I have little wax strips that have my full eyebrows on them? Yes, I do. Why? Because I thought it was cool, and then I kept them, and now they just live in a weird little pile in my medicine cabinet, and people ask me about them sometimes when they find them. Most people don't find them, but when they do, they get confused. And then I have to explain that, I don't know, I grew it and I want to keep it. But if I sold it, I'd be okay with giving them away. Yeah, see? I've given them to people before. It's fine. It's good to keep spare parts. As a person, as a being who had to grow their own human suit, you never know when you're going to need that. Now that we've truly done an aside that makes no sense. Year of the Black Rainbow by Claudio Sanchez and Peter David. Chapter 6, The Black Rainbow. I just figured it out. Sorry, no. In chapter 1, which was somewhere in the middle, Coheed and Cambria were talking about, not Coheed and Cambria, but the narrator, whoever that is, was talking about the big scary cloud that was making the howling earth scream louder, because the howling earth has always screamed, but now it was loud. And it's a big scary cloud, and it's the Black Rainbow. Oh my gosh. Chapter 6, The Black Rainbow. On the Star 4 world of Bendelesh, the home world of the priests, the winged guardians of the Word of God, Paranoia was the first to see it. The priests had no singular leader. Instead, each of the sisters took turns serving as the main voice of the priests as situations required. In those instances, even the term leader was not the one that they used. They preferred the term guardian for leader, implied that there was a diminishment of free will amongst the priests. Not that it mattered all that much. The priests customarily operated with one mind and spoke with one voice. I didn't assume they'd be the Borg and spoke as a hive mind, so we didn't know much about them, and now we're learning, so that's cool. Never had there been a hive mind that nevertheless valued its individuality as much as the priests. So they're not the Borg, because they still have individuality. That's what that's saying. To an outside eye or individual, there was nothing to distinguish one of the priests from another. Physically, they looked identical. They were long-lived, certainly, yet could die of natural causes or in battle. But who would be mad enough to battle the priests? Wilhelm Ryan. That name was intruding upon Paranoia's musings with growing frequency these days. It seemed his shadow continued to grow and stretched everywhere, even here, into the heart of the priest's orange and gold temple, where the great columns stretched nearly to infinity and the walls shimmered in pale colors that evoked the star itself. This day, Paranoia was wearing the tiara that signified her status as guardian. It was the first day of her term, one that had no set termination point. The priest would simply decide that it was time for the tiara to change wearers, and the guardian would hand it over to the next individual. Paranoia reached up gently and touched the tiara. She knew that it was not appropriate for any of the priests to take pride in the status of guardian. Yet secretly, She was rather enamored of the tiara and wondered if some daunting situation would present itself during her term that would require her to serve, well and truly, her sisters, rather than simply be a figurehead. She watched the outer rim of the temple and stared out at the skies. Morning and night were merely abstracts on Star 4, with the view never changing. Still, she had come to think of those arbitrary divisions as means of keeping track of the passage of time in the universe. Paranoia blinked in confusion, not fully comprehending what it was she was staring at initially. She rubbed her eyes and blinked several times and rubbed them again. It didn't appear to make any sense. It had to be some manner of freakish cosmic occurrence, an illusion, a trick of the eye or the mind, certainly. One that would vanish in short order, back to the inner recesses of her subconscious. But it did not. What in God's name? She said, and quickly came to the conclusion that that was exactly whose name it was. It was a signature written on the fabric of reality, and only one individual could have been wielding the pen to produce it. An ebony band was curved across the entirety of the skies above heaven's fence. It was absolutely massive, as if someone had just reached into the firmament with an unprecedented fury and ripped out the entire strip of reality, leaving a vast, gaping arc of nothingness in its stead. It was like a gigantic, pulsing, open wound, a massive black hole seething with smoke and gas. It had no beginning, no end, and seemed as if it could swallow the entirety of heaven's fence with absolutely no trouble. And from deep within its recesses, Paranoia was certain that she could hear distant screeches of infuriated agony, as if a doorway had been opened to a realm where a billion tortured souls were howling over their fate of eternal torment. That could not have been possible across the void, even were that truly the case. Yet that's what she thought she was perceiving within her own head. Ordinary eyes would not have been able to see it set against the blackness of space, but Paranoia's eyes were hardly normal. They could locate a single speck of meteorite dust bounding across the night sky. For those residing on the planets below, however, as the vast triangle of heaven's fence slowly pivoted on its unseen axis, it would certainly be visible during the daylight hours that the keywork provided. Paranoia closed her eyes and reached out with her heart, her soul, her very being to perceive the reaction that was being prompted from below this black rainbow. The words seemed to have an unusual weight or import to them that had appeared out of nowhere. What do you sense? Her sister Ambellina. What do you sense? Her sister Ambellina was standing several feet away from her. Paranoia had not heard her enter. The priest typically made no noise, unless they were charging into battle. The saying was that to hear the priest meant that you were hearing the hoof beats of your death approaching. Ambellina, typically, was not much for small talk. She tended to cut straight to the heart of matters. You've seen it, Ambellina? Of course, she said impatiently. And I know you are feeling the concerns of man. Again, what do you sense? Paranoia kept her eyes closed. Then she let out a slow sigh and spoke as if whispering. Panic, confusion, fear, elation. Elation? Ambellina cocked a thin blonde eyebrow. I'm getting their voices mixed up. I'm not used to two women talking to each other in this book. It's always been men. One moment. Panic, confusion, fear, elation. Elation? Ambellina cocked a thin blonde eyebrow. Elation? Yes, among other. Ambellina shook her head impatiently. Man can be utterly ridiculous sometimes. Sister! I love you, Paranoia. You know that. But you continue to have far too much empathy for them. Elation? Why not? Said Paranoia, defensive as always about the humans who scurried about in the worlds below like ants with opposable thumbs. Why should they not have a full range of reactions? Because of what it means. They don't know what it means. Neither do we. Yes, Ambellina said finally, in a tone that left no room for argument. Yes, we do. It's a direct sign from God that he is angry with us for the way that we have stood by and let Ryan engage in battle for power and dominance. We are the guardians of the word of God, and if God is displaying his ire with those above, then obviously it cannot bode well for those below. The sisters know that. But do you? Paranoia circled her, studying her. Ambellina remained perfectly still, not meeting her gaze. What does that mean precisely? It means that it is going to be your responsibility as guardian to make the right decision in this matter. Ambellina tilted her head at her. listening to the air. Our sisters have awoken from their slumbers. They are seeing the black rainbow as well. Swift actions are going to be required. You, Paranoia, are going to have to be prepared to do the right thing. The right thing? Meaning whatever you believe is the correct course of action? Ambellina closed her eyes as if trying to gather her thoughts so that she could then explain them as simply as possible. Then she opened them, and Paranoia was sure that she was imagining it. But there actually seemed to be a bit of moisture in Ambellina's eyes, as if she were deeply in mourning. The fact is, sister, that we have failed him. We have let down our Maker, and this is more than just a display of his anger. It's a warning that Ryan must be taken firmly in hand. And what do you suggest? That we charge down and en masse destroy him? We have no choice. We always have a choice. That's the essence of free will. Free will that was given to us by God. And haven't we done a superb job of it so far? Our province is the sky, Ambellina. Thrusting ourselves directly into the affairs of man, that is not our way. But it was our way. We have convinced ourselves of that over the years. But 'twas not always so. Once upon a time, man was our business. We routinely took a direct hand in their affairs. They were like our children. But children cannot remain so forever. Sooner or later, they must learn to walk on their own, to become adults. We were trying to be kind to them by letting them exercise their own free will, to deal with the consequences of their own actions. We were allowing them room to grow. Nonsense, Paranoia. We turned our sights inward long ago, all but forgetting our children as they drew away from us and into the waiting hands of war. Their deaths are the direct result of neglectful caretakers. No one has died at our hand, Ambellina. No, they've died because we stayed our hand. And in many ways, that's just as bad, if not worse. She pointed toward the darkness. That is what he is saying. We don't know what he is saying. We have yet to truly listen. Paranoia, she said patiently. I know that contemplation is your way. Contemplation and caution and studying all aspects of a situation. But we do not have time for that. Not now. Not when the pure anger of God is incarnate before us. If that is indeed what it is. Ambellina hit her. Okay. Her fist struck Ambellina. With a fist? I thought she slapped her. Ambellina hit her. Her fist struck Paranoia on the side of the head. She hit the ground and sat there for a moment, stunned, clutching her skull and trying to overcome the ringing in her ears. She looked up at Ambellina, who was staring at her fist as if it had operated entirely on its own without regard to her wishes. Oh, sorry, I didn't know who was talking. Her fist struck Paranoia on the side of the head. She hit the ground and sat there for a moment, stunned, clutching her skull and trying to overcome the ringing in her ears. She looked up at Ambellina, who was staring at her fist as if it operated entirely on its own without regard to her wishes. Stricken, she looked down at Paranoia and extended a hand. Paranoia gripped it and allowed Ambellina to haul her to her feet. Ambellina immediately put her arms around her, hugging her tightly. I'm sorry. Please accept I'm so sorry. You believe passionately in your opinions. I understand that. She touched her jaw tentatively, pushed hard on it, snapping it back into place with an audible click. But you see the danger and pointlessness of unbridled violence. I know. And your wisdom about such concerns is extremely important to me. But, Paranoia, the timing of the Black Rainbow cannot be ignored. You are aware of what has transpired on Apathy Prime. Ryan celebrated his triumph. Depravity and debauchery ran rampant through the cities as a result. Come the dawn, the Black Rainbow appeared as a mute condemnation of both Ryan's victory and the lack of public's condemnation of it. It's a warning to them. They should be united in their interpretation of it. You said yourself that they are not. We must be united on their behalf, if we were to save them and live up to the trust that had been placed upon us by our Maker. Paranoia stared back at the Black Rainbow, hoping that it would speak directly to her. Make some sort of statement, ideally speaking in a sepulchral voice projected directly into her mind, that it would put forward the common sense of the matter to the priests in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent. But there was nothing save for the decisions that she was going to have to make. She could, of course, wait. Her term as guardian would eventually expire, and another of her sisters would take charge. Then it would become her problem. Paranoia could step back and let someone else attend to it, content that her purpose was to follow instead of to lead. But something within her bridled against that. "There is a reason," she murmured. "What?" "There is a reason that this happened while I am guardian. There is a reason that I am expected to deal with it, and I will. This will be dealt with. Ryan will be dealt with." "Excellent," said Ambellina. "I will alert the sisters. Ambellina, we will descend from on high. Ambellina, and show both Ryan and Defton Wolf the dangers of Ambellina!" The sharpness of her tone snapped Ambellina from her contemplation of slaughter. "What? That's not what's going to happen. Ryan's actions are the affairs of the land. It is not enough that we gather our forces to combat him directly. Instead, humanity must respond in the only way that it can, with innovation, with imagination, with its own resources marshaled to meet the enemy and stop him." "Your faith in humanity is touching, sister," said Ambellina impatiently. "But they are simply not capable of dealing with someone of Ryan's level. They've proven that. They've proven nothing because they haven't truly been given the opportunity to battle Ryan on anything approaching his level. You don't think that God is urging us to attend to Ryan ourselves?" She looked once more at the Black Rainbow. As much to her own surprise as Ambellina's, she smiled. "No, I think we are being urged to show humanity the light. And that, sister, is precisely what we are going to do. And in my observation of humanity, I believe I have found exactly the one to show it to." And that's the end of the chapter. Sweet! So we met the priests, finally. I think at the very beginning of the stream, I talked about how we knew of the priests, but we had not met any of them yet, and we spent a lot of time talking about mages. I was also excited to have a chapter that had a bunch of ladies, but now there's even more characters that I have to remember the voice of. I'm gonna try to remember that Paranoia, though her name is Paranoia, is nasally and excited, and her sister Ambellina, who, the reason I struggle with her name is not that her name is hard, it's that A, it sounds kind of like Thumbelina, and that's a character from my childhood, but also because there's a song where he's talking about a woman, and I think the name is Ambellina, but I don't know if that's true, or if that's just what my brain is telling me that the lyrics are, because that's the name I just read. Hey, so that was the end of Chapter 6 of Year of the Black Rainbow by Claudio Sanchez and Peter David. Obviously, just like every outro, this was filmed on a different day, and that's just because it makes more sense, because during the live stream, I'm not, A, entirely sure when I'm going to end the stream, and B, I don't stop the viewers and say, "Hey, we're going to wrap up this chapter, so bye." I was going to make the chatty bit at the end a little bit longer, but then we got distracted, and we talked about Sephiroth for a long time. Anyway, thanks for tuning into this chapter. Hopefully we'll get the next one loaded up soon. If you want to check out the live stream of me reading out loud, you can do that on my Twitch. In the month of May, we're going to stream on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/bizarre_Bryn. If you want to stay up to date on my life or my streams or anything else that's going on, you can also follow me on Instagram. If you're enjoying the YouTubes and hanging out here with us on the YouTubes, please throw it a like and comment. I guess subscribe. I don't really know how YouTube subscriptions work yet, but I will figure it out one day. Oh, also, if you want to buy stickers with my face on them, which we talk about sort of in the beginning of the stream, I've got these guys that aren't shiny, and then I still have a few of these super shiny stickers. If you want to buy either of these stickers, you go to my Instagram and shoot me a message, and then I will tell you how to do that, and I will mail them to you for free. Free shipping! Free shipping! Also, I drew them myself. So, self-illustrated stickers by me, of me, for you. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you soon with Chapter 7.